All right, good morning to each and every one of you, and thank you for taking the time out to join us at Supreme Counseling for Personal Development this morning for a press conference on situations affecting young people in Barbados, with specific to the violence in our schools. I want to take this opportunity firstly to wish all women in Barbados a happy International Women's Day, and I know you're going to make the best of the day, so happy day to each and every one of females across Barbados, the region, and indeed the world. Now, Supreme Council for Personal Development, I've been asked time and time again, when are you guys going to say something? You guys are working with young people daily, and we've not heard anything from you pertaining to the situation with violence in our schools and so on. I chose today as a very strategic day to address the media and Barbados by extension, because I needed some time to really think on Supreme's way forward as it relates to working with our young people. And I am not one who will subscribe to the view of saying the problem is. I think we already know what the problems are, and we need more so now to deal with solutions. What can we put in place to remedy what is happening in our country amongst our young people? Let me also say to you that what I will discuss with you this morning, we are looking at it more from a psychological or corrective standpoint, more so than punitive. Supreme Counseling is not a punitive organization. We don't necessarily believe in punitive measures. You have the law enforcement agencies that will deal with that. In so saying, however, I do not believe that punitive measures to that extent is what are needed in our schools. I want to start by giving some support to the Chief Education Officer when she says that she is not in agreement with having metal detectors in our schools. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think the layout of the schools in Barbados not conducive to having metal detectors. You can enter schools in Barbados from almost any standpoint. A child, being clever, can at any time just hide a weapon by the fencing, walk around to the front by the security guard, gets checked, go into school, and when he or she is ready to do whatever they have to do, they can go retrieve their weapon and still commit the act. So unlike the United States, for example, where the school compound is more enclosed, one way in, one way out, with just the emergency exits, we really do not have that kind of layout in Barbados. So having metal detectors in our schools will be a waste of time and I think financial resources. The financial resources can better be spent if the money is given to Supreme Counseling for Personal Development to help with our fight to save our young people. Now, I believe it is time that we spend some time looking at our educational system and looking at the syllabus within our schools. And we need to start seeing life skills as very integral, very important to have on the school curriculum. In the same way we have English and math and Spanish and French, we need to have life skills. We need to be able to teach our young people how to resolve conflict. We need to be able to teach our young people how to control anger and to let them know that the anger is an emotion. It is not a bad emotion. It is the management of the anger that sometimes get out of hand. So we really need to do that, and not a subject that at the end of a term there's an examination, because I realized over the years of studying, me personally, that we have a system of education where we study to pass. And 2 or 3 weeks after the exam, we've forgotten almost everything that we learned in that particular topic or subject. So we don't want, for example, anger management to be like an English lesson where at the end of the term, at the end of the year, you have an exam for it. What you're looking at, we want to see the behavioral change through behaviors at the school, so that you can see a young man who once would have been extremely angry, who is even more calm now. And those are the kind of things that we want to see. And I think it is high time that we do that. Supreme Council for Personal Development, for those of you who know of us, you know that we work in secondary schools. We have an extensive program right now in 6 secondary schools where we look at working with young people for at least 5 years, where we take them through self-development and personal development topics and so on for the duration of time. We would love the opportunity to be able to extend our program into primary schools. We think that is where it begins, that we need to get into the primary schools and work with these young people to change certain behaviors before the behaviors are harnessed. I think the behaviors, the development of the behaviors starts at home and in primary school, and then the behaviors are harnessed in secondary school. Now, we just don't want to go into any primary school, however, with our program. We want to target primary schools that almost have a direct leadway or gateway to the secondary schools we work with. So that, for example, Frederick Smith Secondary being one of our supreme schools, we will do research to find out the primary schools that we will most have students going into Frederick Smith from, and we target those primary schools. It gives us then at least 9 solid years of working with any one individual. If you start the programming first in class 1, you have 4 years at primary school. And then that child moves on to Frederick Smith Secondary, you have an additional 5 years to work with that child. So imagine the impact, the positive impact that we will be able to make on the child's personal life and development over a 9-year period. So we really want to get that opportunity to work with our primary school children to really help to shape character from a very young age. We need to work with our primary school children. I see videos on social media. There's one out there, for example, of a young man who is just doing his thing and speaking sexually in the worst way possible. And we need to find a way to curb and to correct that kind of behavior in our young people. Now, as I said, this press conference is to deal primarily with ideas and strategies that Supreme Counseling will want to employ in working with our young people. We are going to be piloting a project in one of our secondary schools very soon. We've already met with the principal and the guidance counselors of that particular school. And this project is going to be called the I Choose You Project. Strange name. But I think it speaks for itself. I choose you. And what we're doing is that we will have young people who will choose a particular teacher. And that child will be given a card. And for example, that card would have, Dear Mr. Brown, I choose you. I was asked to identify a safe adult as part of the Supreme program, and I choose you. I may come to you when I feel unsafe, when I have questions about my safety, or if I know another child who is unsafe. It means then that that child has a direct contact or relationship at the school of some person that he or she can go to with problems. Anytime you feel, as the card says, unsafe, Mom, can I go speak to Mr. Clark? Mom, can I go speak to Miss Moore? You have that direct contact with a teacher that is there almost as your safety guard. And we think that if we can get this program developed, that it can really help our young people to realize that teachers are there for them. Let me mention, however, that the I Choose You project is open to all staff. So it's just not necessarily the teaching staff, but the non-teaching staff as well. Because the young lady decided that I want to choose one of the janitors. I want to choose the groundsman as my I Choose You person. And that is totally allowed. It brings about a closeness within the school setting, and it gives children the opportunity to have someone that they can talk to, that they can relate to, that will be there for them to talk them through situations. So instead of getting in the fight, let me go and talk to Miss Bell. Let me run certain things by Miss Bell to see what Miss Bell can suggest or how Miss Bell can help us. As I said, we've discussed it already with one school. The school loves the idea, and we are putting mechanisms in place to implement or to introduce the program to that school as a pilot project to see how it will work. We at Supreme Counseling, however, strongly believes that it is a program that has the ability to really work in our schools to help our young people and to bridge that gap between student and teacher. Now, we also at this stage want to offer a level of support as well to the head of the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union, Ms. Redmond. I read in an article that it was mentioned that coming out of a meeting with the members of her union, there are a number of things that the teachers would like the Ministry of Education to put in place. They are calling to have the ministry to relook at the method used to transfer students from primary to secondary schools, as well as the searches of students by the guards on entering secondary premises or school premises. They are also asking for an examination of the system of suspension to allow for counseling. Now, I smile at this because this speaks of the Supreme SAS program, the Supreme Alternative to School Suspensions. And I am on record as saying time and time again that suspension without intervention is a waste of time. That suspension without intervention, you are giving young people what they want, a vacation within the vacation. They go home, they are unsupervised, they enjoy the time home, and they go back to school and they repeat the same action for the same result because you are giving them something that they want. Let's be realistic, Barbados. The reality is that you will not necessarily find a high achiever at a secondary school being suspended, or at least on a regular basis. So that when you suspend these young people from school without intervention, these are young people that more often not really don't have an interest in schoolwork, and they don't care how much math they miss. They're not the one that cry over missing biology because it has no impact, no effect on them. You are giving them what they want. So we support this call. The Supreme Alternative to School Suspension is a program that we introduced, that we put in place to deal with things like that. Instead of sending the child home for 7 days, send the child over to Supreme Counseling. We have a program in place already to deal with those young people. We have not yet started the program as we should. We have received the blessings of the Ministry of Education for that program, but it was also suggested that a memorandum of understanding should be drafted and should be signed by a representative from the Ministry of Education, principals of the participating schools, and Supreme Counseling for Personal Development. It is somewhat unfortunate, and I know how very busy our good friends at the Ministry of Education are. I know that they're probably more busy now than ever before. But that memorandum of understanding is sitting on somebody's desk in the Ministry of Education since about June or July last year. And it has held back the process of getting that program started. I know, however, again, that my good friends within the ministry, we have an excellent working relationship with the ministry, and we obviously would like that relationship to continue. We expect that the relationship will continue. And they know that over at Supreme Counseling for Personal Development, we are doing our best to assist with the positive development of young people. And we at Supreme Counseling for Personal Development know that the officials at the Ministry of Education has the best interests of young people at heart. So we are quite sure that that MOU will be signed as soon as possible and forwarded to us, that we can get that program up and running. The president of the BSTU, they have also asked for the introduction of a mentoring program for at-risk youth. Again, the Supreme Enhancing Lives Forever Mentoring Program, or the HELP program, or the SELF program, is another initiative that we've been running out for the past 4 or 5 years or more, where we match some of our at-risk youth with mentors. to really work with. Our mentoring program is going extremely well. The challenge, however, with the mentors, and this is an appeal to Barbados, we find that the spirit of volunteering in Barbados is almost dead. You don't have a lot of people now willing to volunteer their services. And we need mentors. We have the children that need the help. We have the parents and the families that welcome the help. But we need the mentors to join us, to work with us. And we've opened our mentoring program in terms of the age of our mentors. So you can be retired and have some time on your hand and you want to give back. Just give us a call at 228-9769, and my project officer responsible for the mentoring program, Mr. Russell Graves, I am quite sure he'd be quite willing to have a chat with you to help us, and we'll be willing to extend the program in the event that we get the mentors coming on board. It was also mentioned in that article, new parenting programs. Now this is the point or the time when I will address parents in this country. You have a role to play. It is not the responsibility of the school, of the church, of Supreme Counseling for Personal Development to alone parent your child. You have a responsibility to do all that it takes to make sure that your child is on the right path. Organizations at Supreme Council for Personal Development, and I know a number of other organizations, organize parenting programs across this country. And you will have a list as long as 40 parents all saying, yes, we are going to be there. But on the day, you cannot find 5 of those parents walking through the door. But you then turn and you call on the agencies when it's crisis time. Let's be more proactive than that. When an organization organizes a parenting program, we're not necessarily saying to you that you're a bad parent. We just want to enhance your parenting skills. We want to make you a better parent than you are. We want to help you to be able to cope with the different changes that the children, that your child will make. So you really need to support and to come out to the parenting programs when they are called. So again, this is lending some support to the president of the BSTU, but also to inform Barbados that some of the things that they're requesting are things that Supreme Council already has in place, and we are willing and we are ready to partner with any organization in Barbados that is on good standing and good ground to take these programs to the society, to the community. We also welcome any organization in corporate Barbados that may want to inject a level of funds in your organization to help us with our mandate of working with young people and helping young people out. I move on now to our obvious bullying prevention program. This is a program that we launched in Barbados back in 2014, and we have piloted this program for 1 year at 4 schools in Barbados, 3 secondary schools and the Wesley Hall Infants. We've also been asking time and time again for an audience where the Ministry of Education can look at the obvious bullying prevention program as the national initiative to govern bullying in this country. This bullying prevention program is the most researched bullying prevention program in the world. It was started back in the 1970s. And you have many territories around the world that use the bullying prevention program. Australia, the UK, the United States of America, Germany. And we've just introduced the program to the Caribbean with the first stop in Barbados. And I have been doing some work in Antigua as well, quite recently, with the development of the obvious bullying prevention program. We want to ask that this program be given the nod as the national initiative to fight bullying in this country, to address bullying in this country. We have statistics of 1 secondary school that will prove that the program is working. I cannot and will not call the name of the secondary school, but we would have conducted 2 surveys, one in 2014 and the second last year, November, last year being 2017. And we have seen that since the introduction of the obvious bullying prevention program, that there have been somewhat a decrease in the incidences of bullying at this particular school. We are seeing positive movement at this school as it relates to bullying. What is somewhat worrying to me though, and I think there's a direct correlation between the two. The number of students who would have told an adult, anyone that they are being bullied, have decreased. So that in 2014, for example, you had at this school some 17.1% of the respondents to the survey indicating that they would have told someone that they are being bullied. Last year's survey, however, indicates that only 28% of the students indicate that they've never told anyone that they are being bullied. It means then that our young people are keeping it to themselves. We know that research suggests that 75% of young people who are bullied keep it to themselves. But it makes me wonder, is there really a correlation between bullying in terms of these statistics and the increase of violence in our schools? We know for sure, because we would have had a number of young people who came into Supreme Counseling for counseling or because they were suspended for taking the school a weapon. And when we investigated, these young people took the school a weapon, scissors, knife, or whatever, because in one instance, the young man was constantly bullied every lunchtime in the canteen area. A young man tried to, the extortion of his funds, and he refused to report it to anyone. He took the school of scissors to defend himself. So I'm wondering now if because of the decrease of young people who are no longer reporting to an adult that they are being bullied, if they're now taking matters into their own hands. And I know one of the very brutal incidences we have, it was drawn to my attention that outburst was again as a result of bullying. So our young people are no longer talking out and saying that I am being bullied, my money is being taken, I am being slapped around my head every day, and that is a worrying trend. And I think that is why the obvious bullying prevention program needs to be given consideration as the national initiative to govern bullying in this country, so that we can explain to young people and to Barbadians in general what constitutes bullying, what bullying is. We in Barbados and the Caribbean, we still see bullying as the physical, as the hitting and the kicking and the shoving. We're not seeing things like social isolation or exclusion, stopping young people from being involved in play. We're not seeing things like relational bullying, where, for example, one young lady is bad talking another, so that another will not be friends with the first, and so on. And these are all things that we need to know, and we believe that, as with this one secondary school, that bullying across Barbados can be reduced if we only give consideration to introducing, again as the national initiative, the obvious bullying prevention program. What I'm happy to see, guys, is that when the children were asked if teachers do anything at the school to bring an end to bullying, in 2014, 47.7% of the respondents to that question said yes. In 2017, 54.2% of the respondents said yes, that at this particular obvious secondary school, that the teachers do something to try to bring an end to bullying. If it can happen at this school, ladies and gentlemen, I am quite sure that it can happen elsewhere. And again, Supreme Counseling stands ready and willing to work with any organization, to partner with the Ministry of Education, to partner with any agency to bring around or to have this program extended to other schools in Barbados. Finally, I want to mention to you as well before I open for questions, another initiative that Supreme Counseling have started in our schools, and it's counseling clinics. What we've done is that I deploy my psychological team in terms of the psychologists attached to Supreme Counseling, and we have about 10 psychologists attached to the organization. And the psychologists will go in to the school. So that, for example, we have a psychologist at St. George Secondary, and that person is responsible for going to St. George Secondary School at least once per week for a period of time and doing one-on-one or having a one-on-one intervention with the young people at St. George Secondary School who are in need of such service. And that has been working extremely well for us. We know that some parents, because of their busy schedule, are not able to bring young people into the office. So we have taken the psychologists to the young people. The guidance counselors have welcomed the assistants. The psychologists in the schools for our counseling clinics are in no way replacing the guidance counselors. The guidance counselors at the 6 schools that we work with are doing fantastic work. They go beyond the call of duty to make sure that they execute their duties and offer the services to young people. This is just an additional, some additional assistance to the guidance counselors in the schools. I want, however, to, at this stage, send an appeal out to the authorities, whether it is whoever forms the next government in a matter of months to govern Barbados for the next 5 years. We need to look at this system of having our guidance counselors teach in the classroom. Having our guidance counselors teach in the classroom is taking away from what they're really supposed to be doing. Let's say, for example, you have a guidance counselor in a classroom teaching health and family life education, and Sean has a real urgent need and need to speak to that guidance counselor immediately. Then what should the guidance counselor do? If I leave the class unsupervised, that's at least 30 students that I leave without any supervision. If I leave Sean and his concern, I don't know what will happen to Sean by the time I get to him some 35-40 minutes from now. The guidance counselor, I think, should be available to work with our young people on call. And I think that is something that any incoming government should pay very close attention to. Barbados, when you go out to elect the next government of Barbados, I want you to take into consideration the young people in this country. Realize and remember that you are voting for the future of your children. We are voting for the future of Barbados. And although Supreme Counseling remains non-partisan, although Supreme Counseling remains an organization that is willing to work with any party that forms the government, we have a responsibility to young people in this country to advise parents that as you make your choice, do your research. And when you place that X, make sure that you are putting it in a place that best serves the future of your country, that best serves your child as your child gets older and develops and wants to spread his wings or her wings in Barbados. I thank you guys. Open for questions.
When is the pilot program lecture to you? When is it expected to start? You didn't mention the school.
Mm-hmm.
And how many students could be accommodated under that type of program?
Well, I deliberately did not mention the school because I did not seek permission from the principal of the school to mention the school's name at this time. But it is a school that I am quite sure can benefit from such a program. We look at a starting date, and we're thinking that September, the beginning of the school year, will be a better time to start. We are now into the sports term, and next term we are looking at promotional exams and CXC exams and so on. So that September will be the time to start. In terms of the number of students that we'll work with, we are going to start the I Choose You program with the Supreme Beings, the students enrolled in the Supreme program at that school for the pilot project. And then we will extend as we see the benefits of the program unroll.
As it relates to the whole issue of violence in schools, I know you mentioned the possible correlation with bullying. And you also noted the need for parents to step up their role in terms of, assisting in the lives of their maybe the children who are aggressive. What are some of the other challenges that they have had that you would say would also contribute to the problem?
I think a lot of the Supreme Being, a lot of children in the program, everything comes out as anger. But it's really not anger. Anger is probably the easiest emotion that anybody can display. So after we do our research and we investigate and we dig deeper into that child, we realize that, you're not really angry, you're sad, you're frustrated because of things that are happening in the household more often than not. And so we're realizing that. We're also realizing that a number from our psychological assessments, we're realizing that we have a high number of young people in Barbados suffering with ADHD. And we know that ADHD as a condition comes with coexisting conditions. So it is not necessarily the ADHD that creates the problem, but it's the coexisting conditions. So you may have ADHD and ADD, attention deficit disorder, or you may have ADHD and oppositional defiance disorder. So it is also the add-on. It's always the add-on that creates the problem. And we're realizing that a lot of our young people, from our psychological assessments, are suffering with ADHD, and they're restless. Some with ADHD, they're more on the impulsive end, where they're very, very impulsive. There are some that are the restless end, where they have to be constantly moving and so on. And I think that our schools need to start to understand these challenges and be able to work and to address these challenges. We also realize that a number of young people coming into Supreme Counseling no longer like school. They don't enjoy going to school. And when you research this, again, it's because they're being bullied. And they prefer to stay away from learning because they want to avoid being bullied. We therefore need to make our schools safe havens again. We need to let our young people know that school is a safe zone. And you can feel free, you can feel comfortable to attend school without having to worry about some person meeting you at the canteen and trying to extort your funds, or some person just beating you every day because they don't like your appearance. But those, Regina, are really some of the things that we are seeing happening now. In addition to that, a number of young people are frustrated with learning. And I think it's something that we need to pay close attention to. If you have a young man in first, second, and third form, and he's not getting it, he repeated first form about twice. No one can say to me that this young man deliberately made up in his mind that he's going to repeat first form 2 times, because that in itself opens this young man up for bullying, the taunting and the teasing and so on that will go on. So there has to be some reason why this young man is not getting it. And instead of putting that young man as dumb, as foolish, as retarded, and the other things that we tend to call our children, we need to do some research and to find out if there's a psychological reason. What is the reason that is stopping this young man from learning? We also need to put in place, and I realize that the Ministry of Education have been working towards this, and I'm happy to see that we put mechanisms in place for some of our students who are not academic. not every child is academically inclined. And if you have a child who is more gifted with his hands, and you frustrate that child for 4 years trying to learn these academic subjects and he's not getting it. By the time that child reaches 16 years old to go into polytechnic or skills training, that child ain't got an interest in class, in nothing called school. You can call it school, institution, whatever you want to call it. The child has no interest in it anymore because the child is now afraid of anything that is called learning. So we need to introduce from a very young age, we need to continue to work towards introducing at a very young age those vocational and technical subjects for our young people who are gifted. And if we do that, can you imagine what we can be doing to and for the Barbados economy some 5-10 years from now, when we are able to put out a number of tradesmen who are able to support themselves and to support Barbados and to be productive citizens of our country.
After the Brantley Adams stabbing incident, it was revealed by the ministry. They conducted some investigations and found that some gang members on the outside were trying to infiltrate the school, recruit some students. Have you been able to substantiate that claim with you working with these secondary students?
Well, we do a lot of work with Brantley Adams Memorial School. We have a good working relationship with the school there. And we did hear that claim. We've not encountered any of our young people though who have said that, that they're being pursued to join gangs or anything of the sort. So I am thinking that, like you, that is just something that Supreme Counseling would have heard in passing, but we have no evidence, scientific or otherwise, that will substantiate or support that claim. That is not to say, however, that is not the case.
You spoke about the SAS program, the Supreme Alternative to School
Suspension
program, right? And I'm just wondering, in terms of the reach or the scope of that program, just give us an idea of what you are looking at, because I know you said it's not fully off the ground because you're waiting on the ministry, but what scope would it have? Would it just be the schools that you currently work with, or would it be a wider program?
Well, initially the schools that we work with. We want to start with the schools that we work with as a pilot project. And believe you me, those 6 schools already have children to sign to us. I get calls from time to time from principals, who ask, excuse me, when are you going to be ready for us? We have this young man to send to you. One of the secondary schools, again, without naming that school, have been sending young people to us who've been suspended. They've been sending them to us for, we've been working with those young people and submitting a report back to the school with recommendations and so on how you can work with the young people. But we will start with the schools that we are in. This conference is actually being held today in our SAS room. This is the room that was specially prepared for that program. And we already have one person who have expressed an interest in working with us in terms of providing some minimum, some limited financing. We will be quite willing, however, to extend the program to all schools, providing that we get the financial assistance needed to do so. At the end of the day, with the challenges that we have, and certainly if we are to look seriously at implementing some level of counseling intervention to young people who are suspended from school, the one school in Barbados, Egg the Nichols, who again they're doing fantastic work, cannot accommodate the number of students who are suspended on a daily basis across this country. That is but a drop in the bucket. So every other organization similar to Supreme Council and Egg the Nichols that can put a program in place to accommodate some of these young people, I think it is something that we need to look at, because all hands need to be on deck to save the young people in this country. It means again that any incoming government needs to look seriously at the funds that they will inject into education, and probably look at creating some government private sector enterprises with organizations again like Supreme Counseling, like the Barbados Vagrants and Homeless Society doing their work in other regards, and providing the resources, financial and otherwise, for the organizations to continue doing the work that we do, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
I just have a final question. I know we talked a lot about the role of parents, but I'm just wondering, sometimes parents are so busy and they only realize there's an issue when the student is suspended or they have to be called to the school on numerous occasions. So what perhaps are some of the warning signs or signals that parents should hone in to pay attention to, so that they know, well, hey, look, I think I need to get some assistance or some help from my child in the early, even from at the primary level?
I think one of the things that happen in this country, that's a good question. I think sometimes parents see these warning signs from very, very early. From 4 and 5 and 6 years old, we see these warning signs, but we ignore these warning signs. We don't necessarily see it as anything too serious until it gets out of hand, and then we seek some level of intervention. I'm thinking that parents need to seek intervention from the time they see these warning signs, or something that they're uneasy with, something that is not sitting comfortable with them. Seek intervention. Barbadians and Caribbean people, we have this thing that we don't trust counselors, and we don't believe in the whole counseling process. And then there's other people that just want your money or that want to know your business and they can't help. And we shy away. Oh, you need to see a psychologist. Are you trying to tell me that I'm mad? We need to start seeing the psychologists and counselors in the same way we will see our doctor. If you have a headache, a stomach, where you go to your family doctor to try to get some relief, to get some help, we need to see psychologists in the same light. Now, to answer your question directly, we need to be able, firstly, to know our children and not to believe or to think or to assume that we know our children. Because I think we have a lot of parents in Barbados that assume that they know their children, but when they really see their child's true colors, then a lot of them are extremely surprised. So we need to start by really knowing our children. If the child gets aggressive and leaves the house and goes in the yard and kicks the dog, that is room for that is need for concern. It means that there's some kind of displaced anger that needs to be dealt with, that needs to be channeled. And it means then that you cannot sit down and wait, because he will move from kicking the dog to probably kicking a sibling, going to school and kicking a classmate. And then the parent will see it as a problem when he ends up kicking the parent. But from kicking the dog, we don't see it as a problem. That is one of the warning signs. Secondly, if you have a child who is constantly alone, everybody else in the dining room or the living room watching television, enjoying a good laugh, eating together, but Sean comes in, takes his food, goes straight to his room, locks off the door. That's a warning sign as well. What is going on with you? Yes, there are some young people who like their privacy and so on, but this is now when it is vitally important for the parent to know the child and to know how the child reacts to certain situations. If there's a child who enjoys playing football and is a good footballer, has a future in football, but then all of a sudden he no longer wants to go to football. I don't have an interest, I don't like football anymore. Why is it? Why is it that you've moved from wanting to go to football 7 days a week? I know you don't even want to go for 1 hour on Saturday mornings. What is it keeping you away from football? And finally, I think that we also need to be able to be in contact with the child's teacher on a regular basis. You need to be able to call, set appointments to go to the school to find out what is really happening with your child, what is going on. Don't wait until you're called because it is something bad. But make the time. I know that parents are busy, some doing 2-3 jobs, trying to make ends meet and so on, but the financial support of a child is not the all-in. That child needs love. That child needs other assistance. That child needs to know that he has a parent who is there, who has his back. According to young people, he needs to know that there's a parent with backative. He's there to support him where he needs that support. Parents need, I know we have a lot of parents who do parent, but parents need to parent. And Regina, I think that we need to get the point across to our young people, and a lot of young people in Barbados, like myself, who would have grown up under certain conditions. There are some young people who day in and day out will have a plate of food, but they want to see a piece of meat on the plate. But that child have learned to appreciate eating food without meat. And then when there is meat, that child also enjoys a plate of food with meat. So the day that there is no meat on the table, there is nothing strange to that child. Unlike the child who grown up in a household when there is always meat, if you're eating 6 times per day, there's meat on the plate 6 times a day. The day that the meat is absent, that child don't want the food. It is, again, like a child who would have grown up in a household with a fit toilet. And that child knows whenever there's a serious calling or whatever, what I need to do. The child who grown up in a household with a waterborne toilet and something happens and there's a calling, I'm going to use nobody's spit toilet because that is not, what are you talking about? So I'm saying that to say that our young people need to know, the ones who have struggled need to know that that is experience that you can use for the better. And that young person is the stronger child, you know. Once you can use it for the better, it means that you can navigate yourself through any waters. The day when you have meat, you eat the meat and you're happy. And the day when you have white rice and butter, you eat it and you're just as contented. You have one white shirt that you wear 5 days a week, and each morning you step out of your house, the neighbors feel that you got a shirt per day. Because the way how you wear that shirt, the way how you carry yourself. I think young people in Barbados, you young people in this country, you have the tools. You have the tools that you need to survive, to succeed. You just have to harness those tools. And you have to look at these things in a positive way and not allow the negative forces to get the better of you. Well, that's it. Thank you guys for coming. And obviously Supreme Counseling really welcomes the opportunity from time to time to have a chat with the media as it relates to any concerns pertaining to young people in this country. And we can offer you the assurance that we will continue playing our part and doing our best to work with the young people that we serviced. When we started in 2009, we started with some 40 young people. 2017, we now have over 1,000 young people in the Supreme program, and we are growing and we are getting stronger, but we need the assistance of parents, we need the assistance of government, we need the assistance of other corporate Barbados entities that can provide the fundings for us. I need to, as my final word, to say a big thank you on behalf of each and every child in the Supreme program to the Maria Holder Memorial Trust for the confidence that you've placed in this organization over the past 5 to 7 years of supporting us financially and otherwise, being there for us. We want to thank the Maria Holder Memorial Trust because without your assistance, Supreme Counseling will not be able to be doing the work that we're doing. I want to ask God to bless each and every one of you over at the Maria Holder Memorial Trust as we continue to work together for the positive development of our young people. Thank you.